Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new Double Down seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which every card in our deck gets duplicated, and whenever we play a unit, we will also play a random unit from our deck with the same provision cost. That lets us play twice as many copies of the most powerful cards in the game, so today we're revisiting one of our most effective combos ever. So today we'll be revisiting a Nilfgaard Touissaintois hospitality deck that we previously used to score over 1,000 points. Yes, it is capable of a ridiculous amount. It is a ton of fun for that reason. The key thing is, of course, as is the case with most decks that are using this leader ability, building around Cahir, because he will get boosted whenever we boost our opponent on our turn. So we just have a ton of ways to boost our opponents, and then either boost up Cahir in the process, find other cards that also benefit from boosting our opponent, or after boosting the entire board, both our cards and our opponent's cards, we then reset our opponent's side so that we receive the boost, but they don't keep theirs. So Cahir is the centerpiece, and we will use cards like Ffion to help protect him, but we will also use Letho Kingslayer to transform into additional copies of Cahir. That way we get even more points whenever we are boosting our opponents. Then we can use Assire in round 2 or the beginning of round 3 in the range row to move Cahir and possibly even our defender Ffion from our graveyard back into our deck so that we can repeat that combo once again in round 3. So we have the Cahirs on the board. That's how we get the great value from boosting our opponents. As for how we actually boost our opponents, the Knight Challenger, which can boost the entire board, which is a great way to make the boost happen on your opponent's side, as well as the even bigger Yennefer of Vengerberg range row for tons of board boosts. So those are the big ones, but we have other stuff like Milton and Palmerin who can do a fair bit of boosting as well. If you are boosting specifically one of your opponent's units a lot, then you can get a ton of value by boosting that unit once again with Guillaume. At that point, the deploy ability should be a huge boost, and that is when you're going to want to click the order ability on Milton, so that way he's getting a huge boost on himself as well. And then outside of that, we can also steal whatever bronze unit we have on our opponent's side of the board that has been significantly boosted. So when possible, try to have it be one of your opponent's bronze units that's receiving most of those boosts. More opponent boosting with Buhurt, and another means to make that happen with false Ciri, another target for you to go after for boosting on your opponent's side. And then as a way to counter the spy spam Nilfgaard decks that are pretty common in this event, teleportation to replay the spies that your opponent may be trying to flood on your side of the board and basically throw them on their side of the board. And similarly, Elf and Onion Soup, if you're running out of board space, destroy the spies that your opponent is using, and that way you have more room to play the stuff that you need to play. That's really all there is to it. It is all built around Cahir and boosting your opponent as much as possible, and then using Assire plus tutors to get Cahir and possibly Ffion out again in a later round so that you can do that once again. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here, and we'll go first. Alright, so we'd like to make sure we have a way to get Cahir out here, and we should with Alzur's Double Cross, as I believe he ought to be the highest unit in our deck right now, as he's our only card that starts at 7 base power. So that's one way to make it work. Don't really think we're going to need teleportation. This is mostly just a way to counter Nilfgaard spamming you with spies. Speaking of, look, we don't have that many, okay? I deliberately didn't put any of the bronze spies in this deck for that reason. Okay, and for that reason, maybe we don't need quite as many of the boosting specials, and we also have Royal Decree for more tutors. Yeah. Swap one of you out. And you out. Okay, double Alzur's Double Cross. Now, obviously, we won't really need to use both of these in the same round, but that probably means what we can do is use Assire round 2 to get a Cahir back into our deck, and then bring it out with Alzur's Double Cross, so we can do it in multiple rounds. So we'll get kind of aggressive here. Since we have Ffion, we can now... Ooh, okay, now, granted, would have liked to have gotten a Cahir rather than the other Ffion. We also have Cursed Scroll here, so we have lots of control over which cards we can get. That should not be an issue. In fact, at this point, we might very well swap out an Alzur's Double Cross for something like that, which is basically just a more flexible option for us. What are they going for, though? Double Scenario, maybe? Block? No double muted generator, which can add up big time. Now, that being said, if they boost on the board, we can reset with Geralt Yrden, which is something that should work pretty well for us. If they boost in their deck, then obviously we can't reset there, so that gets a little bit trickier. So, in which case, you're going to be important. And we are going to want to break out a a Cahir pretty early, because our deck is designed to play him multiple times. So let's maybe swap out an Alzur's Double Cross and just get Oneiromancy with it. I mean, at this point, we're arguably already with more tutors than we would ever need, but we'll do this. Then we'll get the other Oneiromancy. Then use this to do double Cahir. Now, he should be our only 9 provision cost card remaining in our deck, so we're guaranteed to get the other one. Now we can go crazy with boosting other stuff. So normally I would be a little more conservative with breaking out Cahir. Wouldn't want to break him out this early, but especially in round 1, since we are planning to get the Cahirs back out in a later round. Now that they've played some bronze cards, we can do things like get a Master Puppets out here, and things can start to get interesting. Want to give ourselves enough time to boost up their stuff. So, oh, and they went range road? Darn. Yeah, definitely prefer them to be going melee road. But hey, I mean, as I was saying, if they end up boosting, then it is going to make it easier for us. We either reset them, or steal them with Master Puppets. And with double Defender, it will be, I would think, relatively difficult for them to break through, but we'll see. They do have a lot of damage here. Like, a lot of damage here. Alright, so I think, let's see. I'd like to save Yen for round 3, so Knight Challenger may be the way that we're going to end up boosting people in this round. So, probably Knight Challenger and then Leader Ability or the Buhurt from hand. Just want to double check with our other two just what we're planning here. So we could use Royal Decree to get Geralt. We could... Oh, we need to play more. We actually have Battle Preparation, so we could go False Ciri if we really wanted to. So that does take a little bit of time if we want to go that route. Let's get a Knight Challenger out here. Let's do that. I'm deliberately going to load up on a bunch of stuff in the melee row. You're the most boosted, right? Not that you're boosted by much, but shouldn't be a big deal. Because we should get plenty of boosts from this. Coming soon. Alright, so they broke through one of the defenders, although at this point, honestly, we could use the board space more than anything. Alright, love the boosts. Generally speaking, Reaver Scouts. Not entirely sure what to make of that. This doesn't look like a Reaver's deck at the moment. Alright, so just to double check, your Grace 8. So, you can obviously activate one of them, then they'll boost the entire board. That'll get the other one up to 7, unless the boosting our opponents activates our leader ability, which happens to hit the other Knight Challenger, which may or may not end up being the case. So, I mean, we could go with the second leader ability, or with our leader ability plus this Buhurt, or we could go False Ciri. I'm not sure we have enough time to really benefit from False Ciri that much. Let's boost, I guess you are the one that I'm feeling like is going to get the most attention here. And then, sure, I'm going to hold off on the stealing for now. Let's see if we can get slightly more boosting first. Right, Meave. Ooh. And Ildiko. They've not yet used Reaver Scout. I was thinking about sealing that, but I assume they're going to immediately... Okay, they do immediately use it. So they have a ton of deck boosting at the moment, for what it's worth. That is what concerns me more than anything, because we can reset the boost they have on the board here. In fact, if we want to do that, we're going to need to do that pretty soon. So you have Adrenaline 2. Basically, we could False Ciri and then use the first one to get this out. Can boost False Ciri or boost whatever other unit we want to steal from them. Perhaps this Arbalist. Or use it on her so we can actually get her back, because we're running out of time to make that happen. And then use the other one to boost up this guy with a Battle Preparation. In fact, I might even do that first. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go Battle preparation first. On you. Technically, I guess might have wanted to have waited so we could get the boost on this Ciri as well. Then it's a little bit easier to get you boosted up. Okay. So yeah, next turn, if we want to, we can steal and then Yrden. And that's probably the last thing we want to do in this round, if they even choose to play further. Your Grace 8. Yes, we need a little bit more time for the Ciri to come back anyway. But, Meve might help us in that regard. They do have Reavers. Okay. Interesting. Alright, so, I mean, we could steal those. Also, playing in the melee row will give us Ciri back, which is convenient. And they almost have set us up to steal that Ciri as well. They do have some damage, and they're getting close. In fact, they may even on this turn be able to destroy our defender. Looks like they will. We were starting to run out of space. So, we'll take it. But although, I'm curious what they do with Margarita now. They target a Master of Puppets. You shouldn't damage them. That's not going to help. You'd think Cahir would be the obvious option. Although we've already done most of what we want to do with him. They don't have time to lock him, though. Or at least, they don't opt to. So now, let's see. We could steal a Temerian Drummer and then steal someone else just to put someone next to him, but or we could steal that Reaver Hunt. We could steal both the Reaver Hunters. I was thinking the Arbalist just because it has the most base power. That's kind of what we were focusing on boosting at this point. Yeah, let's go. We'll steal Range Row. Let's steal you, and then we'll steal you. And then I'm gonna go Royal Decree into Yrden. So we do still have Adrenaline, I believe. Yeah. Or is it, as in, it's early enough? Oh, right, he does need to be melee row now. I have forgotten. Yeah, it's been reset. And technically with two of them we could reset both rows, but point being, this should be pretty difficult for them to come back from that. Now, they may hit us with the Yrden. It is technically just barely early enough that they could do that. Alright. Because if they had one, their Adrenaline would not quite have kicked in yet, but we'll win round one. They still have a lot of deck boosting, though, and that is pretty scary. Alright, so now our plan is to use Assire to bring back at least one Cahir, and then likely use an Oneiromancy or Alzur's Double Cross to get it out and get a Letho Kingslayer to transform into another copy of it. Don't really need teleportation. There is Letho Kingslayer. Okay, so that does give us a lot more options. We did play one more card than our opponent, so we'll probably just drive past here and we'll use Yennefer as our finisher to boost everyone up. Now, we know they had at least one source of lock with Margarita. They only got one out from their deck, though, when they played her. They must have gotten another Reaver Hunter. So that's also 6 provisions. But we know they have another Margarita, is my point, which means they could lock one of our Cahirs. But that's why we have the potential to create a whole bunch of them, because we did use both of our defenders round one. I didn't really want to, but we happened to get the other one out as well, so ideally would have saved that. They'll just go with whatever here, and they do play some of their stuff that's been deck boosted a little bit. Okay, and Spores might not be a terrible thing to end with, since they're doing a fair bit of boosting, and we obviously are also assisting them with those boosts as well. Again, not really planning on teleportation in this specific matchup. Alright, we've so many freaking tutors that we may have more tutors than we have units to tutor. We'll have to double check. Oneiromancy may have to be for specials. Okay. We do have the option of getting some... Where were they? Some more Masters of Puppets out here. So if they have some really high value bronzes like this Griffin Witcher, if it continues to get boosted, also it is an engine in and of itself, then that is potentially worth getting. Now we probably do still want to get Cahir out here as quickly as possible. We need at least one, so we can then create copies of it with Letho. Unfortunately, this Letho is not going to get the other Letho out from our deck, because he's going to transform into a 9 provision card, not a 10 provision card. So he can't get himself out. But let's go Assire here. We'll get you. Then we'll go other Assire. Now, you actually could make a case for either Defender or the second Cahir. That's a tough one. I think I will go Defender, because we know we have the option of using Letho later on. So we should still be able to get multiple Cahirs down. Alright. Ballista. So some damage. I think they're just kind of a lot of 5 provision cost cards. That is the provision number that they focused on in round 1 with their meter generator. That's where they're getting all the deck boosts to happen. So yes, now we have a defender with Ffion, and we also have Cahir. They're both 9 provisions, and I believe they should be our only 9 provision cost cards we have left here. So that should make it much safer to play around that stuff. And I think, yeah, Cahir is going to be our highest base power card. So let's use Alzur's Double Cross here, because that's the least flexible of all the tutors we have at the moment. This will be Cahir, and then this will be Defender comes out as well. And then, even if they can somehow immediately remove and lock Cahir, we can still get this Letho down. Again, he's not going to get the other Letho out from our deck. This Agoda. Ooh, now that's interesting. Now, of course, we already used our Yrden. Once upon a time, this was how we scored 1,000 points in a match, was, I mean, years ago, was by having 4 Cahirs on the board with multiple Visigodas on our opponent's side with a boosting deck, much like our opponent is using here. So it does excite me in a way, although Cahir has been reworked. He used to be such that even on your opponent's turn when they boosted themselves, he would get boosted. That's no longer the case. Now we need to be the one doing the boosting for Cahir to receive those boosts, so not quite as good as he used to be in that way. And there is the Letho play I was talking about, where it's just Letho and not gonna get the other one out from our deck, but we can do that with one of our tutors on our next turn if we'd like. They are gonna load up on more damage, so this is only a temporary fix, this Ffion. But I'm hoping that's okay. I'm hoping that's okay, because then that means that we should at least have enough time to get that other Letho out here to be our last card that gets, transform into our final Cahir before these Cahirs get removed or anything like that. Which at that point, with 3 Cahirs on the board, you would think it'd be pretty difficult for them to do anything to stop us at that point, or at least completely shut us down. So, again, we've 3 tutors. So let's think about how we want to put them to good use here. And technically, Milton is going to get us Palmerin. Yeah, okay. Just trying to plan ahead to... Can we maneuver that in a certain way? Let's go... I think we'll go Royal Creek, because that's the least flexible, and we don't need the flexibility that much right now. So we are still looking for a unit. Most of the stuff we're going to get out here is going to be units. Okay, so we do that. And then Ffion is going to go down here. So I think I am going to go leader ability. I'm going to boost you up. Let's boost up our defender, make it a little bit easier, or a little bit harder for them to take him out. And then that way, if they do still manage to remove our defender, at that point, hopefully they don't have enough damage to just wipe all of our Cahirs as well. Okay. Leave. So again, obviously the Yrden was amazing in round 1, because that's basically a hard counter for their deck, as much as it would be for our deck. But the Adrenaline made it so that we can no longer just use that as our last turn play, automatically win a round, because we needed to play it a little bit earlier, and that's why I played it in round 1. But Yennefer is our big last play here, and we're hoping that with 3 Cahirs on the board, they're going to find it difficult to outdo that. So now, we also do have Spores, which can at least reset one of their units. Could try to do it on Meve, but they're just going to boost her back up, so it's not really going to be that big of a deal to do that right now. It's probably just going to end up being the last thing we do. So I think now, we could also get more Knight Challengers out here, which with 3 Cahirs is very tempting. Otherwise, I was going to say, go for the Palmerins, and I mean, Guillaume is definitely something that I'm eyeing. Definitely something that I'm eyeing, because they are going to have some very highly boosted stuff. But let's go Milton for now. Oh, and then also there's so many good options. Master Puppets, steal one of their big cards. I think let's just go, keep it simple for now. We'll go Milton. And we'll boost. You're the one that we're kind of focusing on. Would have liked to have gotten a Palmerin out there as well, I think. Unfortunately, went Milton into Milton. And they may have the damage to break through our defender on this turn. We'll see. Royal Decree. Remember, they do have one source of lock remaining. But that's in part why we have multiple Cahirs. Okay, they can give the Zeal... I think they have enough damage to break through on this turn. They should. If not, it's extremely close. Yeah, there it is. Okay, but the point is that now the Cahirs are big enough, it should be hard. They can lock one of them, for sure. We're pretty confident about that. And these guys are about to lock themselves, and basically it's going to end up being base power that we're stealing it for, more so than anything else. Because now it can't use its ability anymore, but so be it. So now the question is Oneiro, because I mean I think it has to be Guillaume. I think he's our only 8, which I mean we need Guillaume at some point because that's going to set up an amazing Milton, double Milton, and we could do it on this Griffin Witcher, who is far and away the most highly boosted card. But that does synergize very well with a Master Puppets, so maybe it's Master Puppets now, and then Guillaume next turn. It means Milton's a little bit, yeah, I think we have to do Guillaume now. So I'm concerned about Milton getting destroyed with all their damage if we don't. Okay, so now we do that and that, because yeah, if we left a, what was it, 3-power Milton on the board, then I was pretty sure that they were gonna do something to mess with him. Either with damage, they could take him out pretty quickly and easily, or block, because we know... Ooh. Okay, we know they have a lot of deck boosting. They have played many of their cards that they had deck boosted before, but double Erland means at least the latter of those two Erlands, or whichever one they choose to actually click the order on, is going to end up being pretty humongous. We have a big lead here, and that lead is only going to get bigger once we Yennefer. We will also be able to Spores. Plan, though, is probably to... So we could Spores on this 57-point Griffin Witcher, though I imagine this is going to be the thing that we want to steal. Then again, ooh, okay. I'd not considered this, but as we're seeing here, they have significant damage. They do have significant damage, so for that reason, Master of Puppets might not be all that reliable. Because I would really want to steal this 59-power Griffin Witcher. That'd be pretty sweet. On the other hand, I think what we do instead is we go Knight Challenger. We can get a ton of Vitality on it. We don't have a lot of time to experience that Vitality, but with Yennefer, we should have enough time to get them boosted up, and that way we'll have some even bigger Cahirs. So I think that's probably the best option here. Also, can we steal... Unfortunately, we can't steal the immunity. That'd be amazing, but... We can steal the lock. No, thank you. Yeah, I think it's Knight Challenger, actually, on this turn. Just casually get 55 Vitality while we're at it. So again, these guys might technically have just enough time. If not for Yen, they're gonna... Alright, now they may very well choose to go after them as well. We'll see. They may have enough damage to get rid of at least one of them. It just felt like that was a little more reliable than going for the Masters of Puppets, which I think would have been immediately answered and done nothing at all. Whereas this guy lasts this turn, which he may not, then we may still be able to make this work. Spores ourselves just to get a Knight Challenger up, so that when we use Yennefer, it gets boosted. That might actually be the best play here, oddly enough. Otherwise, obviously, it would be reset this Griffin Witcher, which is, what, 55-point reset. Thing is, this sets off... Getting one Knight Challenger probably will set off the other Knight... Hold on, we need to do some math here. So you're going to go up... if we don't get you to activate Grace right now, then I think you're getting destroyed on their next turn, because they've made it pretty clear they're going after these guys. So if we do this, you're going up to 5, and then your vitality gets you up to 6. That's not enough. I don't know if the Night Challengers are happening, but I'm hoping that, you know, Yennefer, basically this is the big finisher. Yeah, I guess we'll just Spores this Griffin Witcher, and then we'll finish with Yennefer. I guess we'll do that. So I imagine they will destroy these Night Challengers. That, you know, they were probably just going to lead to us winning by more, rather than being the deciding factor. Yennefer is really the big deal. So we know they're going to get a ton of points from clicking on one of these Erlands. That much is clear. But beyond that, do they have anything else that could turn the tides here? So I still feel pretty confident with where we stand when we have Yennefer. They've not used their leader ability yet, so they can use that to get a big boost here. But what is this last play? Reinforcements for another one, I guess? Yeah? Alright, so yeah, the Night Challengers go down. But I think we will be in... Oh, no, we are still in the lead here. Unless the Visigoda boosts and other passive points they have are enough for them to catch us. I think I'm still going to play Yennefer just because we've done a lot of setup here, and I would like to see how big this becomes, even if it's a little BM. I'm sorry, but I just have to know. How much is this worth? I just have to know. I just have to know. Because there it is. 500 plus points. Alright, so going up against Scoia'tael here. And we'll go first. Alright, so first things first, we need to be a little bit cautious because Guerilla Tactics could move Cahir out of the melee row, and he is row locked to the melee row. So that is a hard counter. We'd like to try to bait these leader ability charges out from our opponent as early as we can. However, we currently do not have a way to get Cahir until we get him into our hand directly, so that's certainly good news. See if maybe Red Haze, we can probably do better than that. Teleportation, mostly a Nilfgaard counter. Elfin Onion Soup, also mostly a Nilfgaard counter. We do have Curse Scroll, though, which we could use to get Oneiromancy on our next turn, so I think that's probably what we'll look to do there. Would normally like to play Cahir relatively early, but seeing as our opponent does have that whole aspect where they can shut us down if they use their lead ability charges early, I'd like for them to use that on some other stuff first. Let's begin with maybe Master Puppets, which, you know, may very well get answered. In fact, we'd probably like to put that in the melee row where we're going to eventually have a defender, because having a Master Puppets, or having units that they would want to steal hidden behind a defender is generally a very good idea. Povko. And Snowdrop. Okay. So nothing for Master Puppets to steal yet, but that's mostly just because we don't have any great options. Oh, they should not have really done that turn 1, because it's a smaller Snowdrop. But didn't have anyone to boost for our other cards, so that was not going to be terribly effective. And as I said, didn't want to go straight into Cahir, especially when we could not guarantee that we got a defender down there first. Let's use Curse Scroll to give us an Oneiro before we forget and probably drop the Elfin Onion Soup. And now, so we could use this to get a Ffion. It's a little risky still, as, like I was saying, our opponent has not used any leader ability charges yet, which makes me a bit nervous. But we'll go Oneiro into the other Oneiro, so we get both Echo copies in the next round, and we will get a Ffion down here. And we'll get the other Ffion. Okay, so Ffion and Cahir are two 9 provision cost cards. So when you play one, you're going to get either the second copy of the same one or the other one, but those are the only 2 cards that you're going to get at 9 provisions, and that's usually pretty convenient as those 2 cards go hand in hand. You want to get the Ffions down to protect the Cahirs. We have the other Cahir in our hand anyway, so we can still get that out. But we can play Cahir on our next turn if we would like to. We've now opened up that option. What are they doing with this Oneiro? A very early Gezros, wow. Now I'd kind of like to see the red haze we had before. But he does... Let's see. Oh. Okay, I mean, that's I would argue, a completely wasted leader ability charge, and actually damage on the Master Puppets is good, because that means when they go over to their side, they're worth less. So, this is more boosting. It's not a terrible thing for us. Let's see, if we were to play here now, get the other Cahir down, they would have to remove both Ffions, which would be both of their leader ability charges, before they could access the Cahirs, in which point they would need a Malena or something like that to move Cahir. This is actually relatively, and I keyword relatively, safe at the moment. There are certainly still ways to make it happen. But now we can start boosting aggressively. And there is exactly the card that I was saying we would be most fearful of. Okay, so honestly, more than anything, just glad that they're using her now in round 1. Okay, so we may need to make this very quick. In that case, might need to, well, we could steal you very easily, in fact. And we definitely will do that, because we're getting a unit that has 2 more base power. We're also going to get the hand boosting. They can't steal it back, even when they do get this Master Puppets, because it's hiding behind a Ffion. Unless they continue to use Malena. Again, we're basically going to give them some conflicting priorities in terms of what they want to prioritize here. So, Milton and Palmerin. I mean, I'd like to do something pretty aggressive here with the boosting so we can at least guarantee we get some value. Some value from, the Cahirs. I want to steal you. There we go. We got the hand buff on the Knight Challenger, which is fantastic. Okay, so now they move Ffion with Malena, and at this point, they could use their lead ability to move both of the Cahirs if they want to. They could now steal back Hawker Smuggler on their next turn as well. That's more of an optimally timed snowdrop. They do not immediately address the Cahirs, though. So we do have one more turn, potentially, in which we could benefit from them. So, at least in this round. Obviously, we hope to get them back in round 2/3. So, Yennefer, yes, is the biggest way to benefit from them. Knight Challenger, to a certain extent, as well, is sort of like a mini Yennefer. This takes a little bit longer. Get up to 7... Unless we were to use leader ability charge, in which case we could make it happen this turn. Huh. I think what we'll do here, I think we will use leader ability. I'm gonna go here. Get the other one as well. And I'm gonna go leader ability. That was not the best of options, but I'm gonna do the perpetual Master Puppet swap. So they can't steal one of our cards back if we just keep on using Master Puppets to steal Master Puppets, perpetually keep them on cooldown. So now, basically, that was a pretty big play. Deliberately did that because I suspect they're gonna do something to answer Cahir on this turn, so I wanted to get value out of those Cahirs while we still could. They're focusing on the Master Puppets instead. This is going to go off if they don't mess with this or the Cahirs. I'm thinking we're going to pass on our next turn, so we have a pretty big lead. And this would still give us a lot more points. Yeah, which are... I mean, they look like a pretty standard movement deck. No Malena. They didn't choose to use Malena to move Cahir? That is very odd. Now, yes, we could use Master Puppets to once again steal Master Puppets and just prevent them from ever getting the chance to use these guys. But I think we have a large enough lead here, especially when Knight Challenger is going to go off on this turn as well. I mean, they could technically Yrden us if they wanted to. That is usually the biggest counter for Cahir. Yrden is now Adrenaline 2, so they can't use it as an absolute last say in round 3 play anymore. But yeah, okay, we'll win on even. So we'll take that for sure. Speaking of Yrden, we draw into it here. Now we do have both of our Oneiromancies. Let's maybe dump Spores. I know they're gonna... how many tactics do we have in our graveyard? We did use our leader ability, so we have that. We have 2 battle preparations. Okay, I guess we can dump you. Because yes, I want Assire to get back our Cahirs, or possibly a Cahir plus Ffion, our defender. Could swap out Spores if we really wanted to, and a case can be made for that. I think our hand is actually looking pretty good here. And I think we're still going to keep this round relatively short. We are on even cards, so technically we could push. But mostly all I'm looking for here is this is a great opportunity to use Sire range row and put some of those valuable cards that we used in round 1 back into our deck, and then we can use these Oneiros to get them back out in round 3. So definitely want at least 1 Cahir, because then we can use our Letho Kingslayers to transform into additional Cahirs. Now, however, the question is, do we get both of these Cahirs, or do we go one of the Cahirs, which we already got, and 1 Defender to help protect them a little more effectively? Because we know they have Guerilla tactics. They still have, I think it's a couple leader ability charges, right? They have 1 Malena remaining. They used 1 in round 1, but they theoretically may break 1 out later as well. So we're going to play it a little bit safer and go for Ffion. Alright, they're going to go Yrden. This is looking like a +1 event deck now. Okay, well, I have to imagine they had some pretty ambitious plans for that. For what it's worth, it's not enough to catch us unless they use a leader ability charge here. I was not really planning to play further, and now that we are tied, we could pass here, force them to go a card down in round 3, so we have double last say. That, and card advantage, obviously. That looks really nice. So let's do that. So again, yes, we could have pushed for the 2-0, but I think, we were mostly just trying to set ourselves up by using the Assires in this round. Renew to get, yes, 100% looks like +1, but that's not the event we're in today, and so this is not a 300 point in 1 turn play, not anymore at least. In fact, they only get 1 snowdrop from that, of course, so it doesn't even synergize at all with the Iterans. Alright, so a bit of an odd one, but they do win round 2. Oh, and we even draw into one of those Cahirs we put back into our deck, so that's amazing, because now we can use him, which will get us out our Ffion as well. Then we can use Oneiros to get the 2 Letho Kingslayers, so that's good. Knight Challenger is basically a mini Yennefer, so that's great as well. Ciri, hopefully we have enough time to make that work. And then Spores, it's a relatively late play, is not a terrible thing either. So, I mean, this definitely could work. Master Puppets theoretically might be nice, but I think we can make do with what we have. Do need to be a little bit mindful of Yrden. In round 3, we can, if we're not careful, very easily forget about that whole Adrenaline 2 aspect and accidentally brick him. But they were doing all that stuff with Yrden in round 2, which makes me suspicious that they were trying to set up something pretty devious, but obviously they did not get the chance to do that because we made round 2 very short. They've also already played their Gezras and one of their Malenas, so one of their biggest engines is gone, and their best counter, at least one of them, is gone, but we know they have another, whether it's in their hand or inaccessible in their deck, that remains to be seen. Hawker Smuggler, I mean, if we had a Master Puppets, that would be a decent card for us to steal, as we did in round 1. Although, still think we probably prioritize getting more Letho Kingslayers to transform into additional Cahirs, because that's ultimately going to be the key source of our points. So, speaking of which, as we were saying in round 1, they still have a lot of ability to move our stuff out of the melee row, which is pretty scary, because Cahir is row-locked to the melee row now. We can get multiple of him, so that does mean that their leader ability alone would not be enough to shut down all of them once we get the Letho Kingslayers transformed into Cahirs as well. Malena is the issue, though. So, with that in mind, do we ease into things at all here? With something like a Master Puppets? No, I think we do go immediately into Cahir, in part because we made a point of doing this, getting a Ffion, so they have to at least move Ffion as well. Now, if they can move Ffion and then Heatwave Cahir, then we're in trouble. You know, anything that could make Cahir accessible and then immediately remove Cahir, because we do need one more turn before we can use Oneiro to get out a Letho Kingslayer to transform into additional Cahirs. Then, once we have multiple on the board, we should be relatively safer. But the fact that they're getting Oneiro here should be Malena. Would be the most valuable card for them here. It's worth it. Yep, it's worth the renew. Undoubtedly worth the renew. Alright, so there's one leader ability charge, but the Malena, of course, can repeatedly move something every turn. So this was the thing that I was fearful of, and why I was saying that you could make a very strong case for trying to ease into things a little bit here and play things that are not row-locked first and see if, you know, they commit that Oneiro and no longer have access to renew, or use a renew directly in their hand for something other than Malena. And then it's much safer, or something else along those lines. We do still have Yrden, so we can still boost them a lot and reset them with Yrden, which could be useful to us. Similarly, boost with Yen and the Night Challenger. We do still have more Cahirs. The problem is, now that they have Malena on the board, we don't have a great way to stop them from doing that, unless and until they play something next to Malena. We'd probably like to do that. Okay. It's Red Haze to get rid of Malena. Then it becomes much safer. So, at the moment, we're basically going to need to accept we're going to have to play suboptimally, to a certain extent at least. Let's go Palmerin. I guess we're resetting you. And then boosting you. So, like, again, ideally we'd have Cahirs in the melee row when we're doing this, but we want something to go next to Malena. That's why I deliberately did not boost her, so that we can then Oneiro, Red Haze, destroy Malena. That's the plan. I was hoping that was going to go range rail. It's very much looking like, ooh, why you do that? Okay. I mean, this Cahir is now accessible, yes, which is a little bit scary, actually, because we do want to make sure we can still transform into a second Cahir with an Oneiro into Letho Kingslayer, which, because we're going to have to use one of these to Red Haze Malena, we can no longer get both of the Letho Kingslayers out here, because Letho Kingslayer, despite being a card that will transform into Cahir, Letho has 10 provisions, whereas Cahir has 9, so when you play Letho, he counts as a 9 card, 9 provision cost card, so to look for another 9 provision cost card in our deck, there won't be any, so we'll only get 1 card out when we Oneiro into Letho. So my point is, we may need to do that a little bit early on this turn, because otherwise, if they do destroy Cahir, then we don't have anything for Letho to transform into anymore. Unless we... Ooh, unless... Here's an idea. What if we Oneiro Letho transform into Malena on our own side? That might just be crazy enough to work. It will get out another false Ciri from our deck, but let's do it. Let's do it, I believe. I believe. Now, of course, ideally we would move here first. I have time to do that, but it took a little time to figure out what I wanted to do there. But yeah, so now basically they can move once every turn. We can undo whatever movement they do with our Malena. But again, it did require that we use... Ooh. Did require that we use one of our Oneiros, which is valuable because that is how we're going to end up getting our... What will end up having to be just our second Cahir and only that. Now we only have one... Or we don't have any other 6 provision cost units in our deck anymore. It's one of the downsides of getting Malena with Letho Kingslayer and getting this other false Ciri out in the process, so this is not quite as effective as it once was. Oh, and they try to move this Triad Matron to make it so false Ciri was not going to get boosted quite as much. This is going to get boosted pretty quickly, though. Okay, so now I think we do Oneiro into the other Letho Kingslayer. This one is going to be the other Cahir. We'll move Cahir like so. So they can move once per turn. We can move once per turn with our Melenas. They have one additional source of guerrilla tactics, though. One charge. So that is the one difference maker there. But I think this Melena will pay off for us. Do need to be mindful, as I was saying before, Yrden may need to play that a little bit on the early side, because if we don't, we may run out of time to make that work. Alright, I'd like to save this Milton Order ability until we eventually use Guillaume late on one of their highly boosted cards, because they should have some stuff that gets pretty highly boosted with all these Dryad Matrons and Double Thought of Sentries setting people up. So, I think we might even go False Ciri on this turn, and just double check what our tactic situation is. Looks like it's going to have to be a battle preparation, which... I mean, Knight Challenger, you could make a case for playing now to give ourselves a little bit of time to get him boosted up, and then that could be the target for battle preparation. It's not a terrible option. Technically, he's not a soldier, whereas Cahir is. We'll do False Ciri. I'm going to put it in the range row, so they have all that stuff going on. Let's actually do this on a Cahir. So yeah, if we go Yrden, we're going to be Adrenaline 4 next turn. When we play something, then Adrenaline... So we don't need to play Yrden just yet, but very, very soon we will need to. Now, of course, going to get some damage from these Cat Witchers, so I'm hoping that's not enough to destroy Milton here. Okay. Palmerin gets it for the most part. False Ciri, at least this one comes back. This one, just from her own built-in boosts, might not have enough time, but once we factor in the Yennefer and Knight Challengers, I think we should still be okay. So what were we saying? We'll be on 4 on this turn, 3 on our next turn, so we could go Knight Challenger and then Yrden. That would still be okay, timing-wise. Otherwise, we could go Yrden this turn. Double reset. I mean, we don't really want to reset False Ciri, of course, but I think we probably do go this route. And we will get boosted based on you, because you have a humongous amount of boosts. And technically speaking, to try to move non-knights out of this melee row and knights into the melee row to set up more Guillaume stuff, but want to be a little careful that we don't run out of space in the melee row. Okay, Brad Brigade. Okay, they are perhaps realizing that Milton is a good card for them to go after, so that might be top priority to move into the melee row behind our defender. Alright, and Milton holds on, just barely. They have a lot of boosts going on. This turn does have to be Yrden. Otherwise, we're going to end up bricking the ability as he's going to activate his Adrenaline 2. Now, usually I like playing Yrden in round 1 because obviously resetting this stuff is going to remove a whole bunch of points from them, but it is going to make cards like Guillaume less effective, and potentially some of our other stuff here as well. So also a bit duplicative with Spores, a bit redundant, but let's go and do it now. So this is our last chance to make it happen. So we'll do this. Let's, technically may have wanted to have moved Milton first because I don't really want him to be in the rightmost spot. So if they do have a Brayhin, that could be very effective. Now, don't know what the chances are of that being the case, but he is technically a movement card. Okay, well, it's Oneiro. Remember, we have double Assire here, so they are looking at their second to last card. They're running out of board space as well. Lots more boosts. Which, I mean, we took away a bunch of them, obviously, all of them, on our previous turn, but we'd like to have something for us to go after with Guillaume, of course. Which could prove a little tricky. They just prevented themselves from moving at all there. What did they... They destroy a Yrden? That's fine. In fact, that's, if anything, helpful, giving us the board space we needed. I don't want you to get destroyed, though. I'd rather you not get destroyed. Which we will see. Okay. So you are hanging on by a thread, and actually our gears are not that highly boosted either yet. So I'm thinking it might need to be Guillaume on this turn, and we'll move him in for the Riot Brigade. Otherwise, I mean, you are about to activate. Actually, both of these are going to activate if we were to play Yennefer. So there's a case to be made for using Yennefer here. That should boost you up a fair bit as well. Or at least enough to hopefully hold on long enough for a much bigger Guillaume play on our next turn. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Let's do that. Move you out so we have more space here. It's a little preemptive on the Yennefer. Again, we have some cards that are a little bit duplicative. So for that reason, rushing the Yennefer, perhaps just a little bit. We do still get False Ciri back, as I was saying. With all of our board boosting, that was the way we were going to have to make that happen. That was, of course, in many ways, our biggest play. But we will still have Guillaume to set up more Cahir stuff. And also, that'll be the way that we make Milton get bigger. And then we'll just Spores to finish. But with a lead as big as this, and still 2 cards left to our opponent's just 1 card left, we're looking pretty good. Once upon a time, Yrden was the key problem for the deck that we are running because it didn't have the Adrenaline 2, which meant your opponent could just save Yrden as their last play and reset all the progress that you made. But we know that's not the case here because Adrenaline would kick in and they wouldn't be able to reset us at all. In fact, they won't even try to take this last turn. They'll rage quit, which means we'll win. So there's a look at a Nilfgaard super boosting deck for the new Double Down seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. And take a look at our Double Down playlist to see previous decks that we've used in this event as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.